Hello, everyone. Let me check to see if we are live. I think we are, but this is something that I am trying to learn as fast as I can so I don't waste your time with this. So hopefully we are it's this video is live now. Watch live. Let me see. Yes, okay, I see this. Great. Uh, I am going to be closing this for now and checking on you a bit later on in the day. So, welcome for any of you who might be able to join me soon and see this live. Welcome. I am very happy to be here today. It is with much pleasure that I say that the group has grown exponentially in the last few days because I sent out the monthly newsletter with the QualiCube blog posts and updates, and many of you have joined, and I want to say welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Myra Quintanilla, and I am based in Edmonton, Canada, where I did both my PhD and also my master's. And I use qualitative methods for both and had an excellent mentor with whom I learned a lot and feel really passionate about qualitative research. And also, I feel that I want to inspire others to love it as much as I do. Now, with that short introduction, I will say that with the people that came on board in the last few days and have joined QualiQ, some of you expressed interest in different areas that hopefully we'll be covering over time. And some of those areas of interest include things like social action and collective impact and qualitative research for evaluation purposes. And those are definitely things that are on the radar and things that I believe we should be talking about. So they will come over time. But many of you also expressed interest in talking about qualitative research in the time of a pandemic when many people were moving their projects online or migrating their projects online. And I could tell by the response to that last question to enter the group that there is a bit of fear and a bit of overwhelm in the process of figuring out what do I do, how do I move forward, how do I know what's ethical and appropriate for my project and for doing qualitative research online. I will have to preface this by saying I am actually starting to support someone with an online qualitative research project. I haven't done any myself, but I am trying to apply what we know and what we have learned for in person qualitative research to this new environment where qualitative research online is needed and there's no way around it. We have to get used to that idea. Before I start with theory of technique and hopefully offer you another resource, another reference, it's actually a good reference, an academic reference for you to go read and maybe consider using for your research when you are making decisions. I want you, I promise, will be 5 minutes and it's a bit of a my personal journey and hopefully something that I can share with you to inspire and to calm you if I can. So if you don't want to listen to what I'm going to say, or if you don't like what I'm going to say, skip the next 5 minutes of this video and come back when you have a chance to watch it. So when I read people talking about doing their research, I am also part of some Facebook groups for academics and for academic writing. I can see a lot of people not only in fear, but also upset that they are having to make decisions with their research or having to write their thesis as if things were normal just because they are working at home and remotely and they can work. It's not normal and they are panicking and very frustrated. They have to act as if a pandemic is not happening outside. I hear you. And I'm going to share a bit of my personal story to hopefully inspire you and also ground you. So, some of you know this, some of you don't, but I have two children, and I had both during my PhD. And the second one was diagnosed with cancer when she was 5 months old. And she definitely shaped my life and my career from that point on. A lot of the decisions that I made, including starting QualiQ, were because of her and because of my experience going through that and revisiting my priorities and thinking about my life. And when my daughter started chemo she was diagnosed with a cancer that had excellent prognosis, high curability rates, and I we as a family and I came out of that as a woman, of that whole journey of cancer treatment, chemotherapy, stronger, more grounded, more positive, and much better in many ways. Now, what I'm telling you is see this time of uncertainty and pain as also an opportunity for personal growth. One of the things that helped me a lot was to work with a therapist to understand that I had a daughter who was likely going to get through chemotherapy and cancer on the other side as a healthy child. I had I had a chance to meet families that started chemo right around the same time as my daughter did, who knew their daughter was likely not going to make it. And we struggled with that. My husband and I struggled with the idea of why do we get to walk out of this with our baby in our arms and some families don't. And one thing that I learned by talking to my therapist and also by reading a few books, one of them is called Option B with Adam Grant, by Adam Grant and Sheryl Sandberg, was that the best way for me to honor the pain of other parents that didn't have the scenario we had was to be grateful for what I had and to honor them by making the best of our family's day to day life and our impact in our communities. So you might not see this, but you are the leader, likely, of your research. Oh, no, no, Meyer. Like, I'm just a grad student. I don't have any power over my study. You do. Even though you might report to a supervisory committee or a few people or one person, you are the one who is bringing ideas forward, who is doing a bit of research and trying to outline what possible next steps you can take. So you are a leader in a sense. And the best way for you to honor the pain of all the people who are being affected by COVID 19 because they had it, or they knew someone who had it, or they lost someone, or they're not seeing their loved ones, or maybe they are the ones who are not being seen by their families because they need to be protected. The way you honor the pain of everyone who is out there who lost or is losing something because of this pandemic is moving forward and doing the best you can. I truly believe that this is not exactly what you wanted to hear, possibly, but I have to say it because I want you to know that what I believe is best for your qualitative research moving forward is really taking one step at a time in terms of what is the next thing I have to do in order to make it work. So, whether that's a conversation with your supervisor, whether it's reading a paper, whether it's being here with me and listening and watching this video, whether it is talking to your ethics board or your institutional review board, you know what you need to do to move forward. If you don't look 3 months ahead, but take a week at a time or a few days at a time and think about your next right step. So I probably took more than 5 minutes, but coming back to theory of technique, we will talk about it and hopefully give you one more resource, one more reference that you can go read, do a bit of research to support you. So, theory of technique, and I'm quoting here from Bosio, Loza, and Grafina. I'm going to post a link to this paper. It is open access. It's a 2010 paper, and in page 193, it says, and I quote, specific influences of all what is their theory of technique. Specific influences of all the tactical choices embedded in or alternatively supporting the findings production strategies in qualitative research. In other words, they're talking about how the choices we make during data collection in how we are going to collect data shape and influence the data that you collect. In other words, your findings and what you will end up presenting to the world. I first learned about theory of technique with my mentor and my PhD supervisor, Dr. Maria Mayen. And Maria was the one who introduced me to theory of technique because at that point I was collecting my data through focus groups, and we had different approaches to those focus groups because some women and some communities didn't want to have their focus groups audio recorded. So we were there, the focus group, and when I say we had a research team and someone else was there with me. We had an interpreter because the focus groups were not conducted in English. And the interpreter would do translation, real time interpretation, and translation. So it's not only translation, but she would summarize what the group had said when we posed the question. And then for one group, we were able to audio record that whole interaction. Whereas for another group, another community group, they didn't want audio recording of real time interpretation. And a third group, we sat there and we listened to the whole focus group without understanding a single word because there was a moderator who conducted the focus group and later on translated and handed the data back to us. So we had three approaches to this cross-lingual focus groups. And my supervisor said, I think you should write a paper about this because theory of technique says that how you're doing this focus groups and using different strategies will shape your findings. And exactly what is happening now. You are migrating online. My work was with cross-lingual focus groups. They were in person, but the work of Bosio, Loza, and Grafina, the reference that I used, was actually not done in a cross-lingual setting, but they were doing online. They were done online, so they did focus groups online, and they used different mediums for the focus groups and compared the data that they got. So they had health-related topics, some more sensitive than others. So they had HIV, smoking. I'm trying to remember the third one. I can't remember, and I have a child screaming in the basement. But in any case, they had three topics, different levels of sensitivity, and they evaluated the use of chats with young people for HIV. I'm going to pull on that, the one that I know the most, the study that I know the most. So they evaluated the use of chat. So that meant young people were online and chatting and responding to one another as they were recording the data. So they scheduled a 1 hour chat and they collected data on the perceptions of HIV risk among a young population of university students. The other way that they collected their focus group data online was chat plus a forum. So that meant that people had that 1 hour of live interaction, and then later on, they were able to post their insights, their thoughts about things that they discussed during the live chat. And the third one, they did the forum only, and people had I think the window of 24 48 hours to post anything they wanted, or to respond to other people about the topic HIV risk, and in the context of their lives and what they knew about HIV. So they compared what they found. And of course, you can imagine how in a chat, you're more likely to say what comes to your mind, especially in that age group. And they saw that, and the transcripts are quite interesting because people will just react in a very informal way, especially with that age group. Like young people, they would just say what's coming to their mind, and their reactions are quite interesting in many slangs when they are interacting in a chat. Whereas a forum, or a place, a board, you could also call a board, online board, they were more thoughtful and they provided more insightful perspectives about their perceptions in relation to HIV risk and exposure. So they basically discussed how the techniques that they used for online focus groups influenced and shaped the data that they collected. And what I want you to consider with what I just described is, what was your goal? What was the goal or the set of objectives that you had for your qualitative research before having to migrate online? If you were doing in-depth one-on-one interviews and the topic is not sensitive, maybe a Zoom call, which is free for two people, is appropriate. However, if it's a sensitive topic and looking in someone's eyes over a screen might be intimidating, maybe telephone interviews, and you can use your audio recorder, put your phone on speaker and use an audio recorder, might be a better idea. So I think you need to account for the fact that your research will change. Some things might be better migrating online, some things might be more challenging. I don't think it's not a matter of right or wrong. I think it's a matter of being different. Things will be different. The results you will get will likely be different as well from doing face to face. It's more so thinking, what type of interactions were you seeking before with your participants or between your participants, and what is more appropriate now? So, as I was saying, if you have a topic that you wanted that insightful discussion and it was sensitive, maybe telephone interviews without video are a better idea. If you are working with young people and you want them to give you that spontaneous reaction, a chat might be a good idea. And you can look at different platforms that might be more readily available, not burdensome in terms of cost or even data that they need to use. So there are various options, and the blog post, Qualitative Research During a Pandemic, part 2 with Stephanie, had a few ideas that her participants in South Africa raised, and WhatsApp was one of them. Facebook groups might be another one. You could have a live and people can respond during the live, or you might want to open for discussion for a certain period of time and have people commenting on each other's posts and posting their own thoughts and ideas. If it is a photo voice project, that they can post their pictures, write their captions there, and people can collaborate in that way. But no matter what, like there are so many options right now, and that's what we see. There are some free options, there are some paid options, but no matter what the option is, before you choose whether you're using Facebook, Skype, Go Meeting, Ecamm, what I'm using for this live, you need to first decide what is the goal of whatever you're choosing. If you were doing one on one interviews, consider the age, the topic, how deep your interaction will get with your participant, what's your method. That is super important. If you're doing a study that is not on a sensitive topic and it's more descriptive, that's one thing. If you're doing a phenomenological study or you're doing theoretical sampling for grounded theory, that's another ball game. And you will need to consider that maybe along your project, you might go back to face when you can. So all those things will need to be taken into account. And I know that for some of you, even though I gave you the pep talk in the beginning, this is like too much. And it might be because these decisions will be overwhelming as you're going through them. However, I encourage you to truly take one step at a time. If you can, go back to the qualitative research during pandemic, part 3, the blog post that I posted yesterday on the blog, and read the paper. I'm going to post a link in the comments below this video. And really, it's almost like draw a flow chart or a diagram. If I choose going this way, this might happen. And this is what I might get. If I choose going this other way, this is what will happen. This is what I might get. There's no guarantee that it will go according to plan, but it will be easier for you to take that next step and not feel like you were frozen in this time and not able to move forward. And remember what I said. I truly believe that the best way for you to honor the pain and the suffering of those that are suffering through this pandemic is to appreciating the leadership you have, the capacity and the ability you have to move forward. Because this is a privilege, people. This is a privilege. This is a privilege for not many people. And if you are in that privileged position, I think we really need to be grateful for that. So thank you for watching and for listening, and I hope to see you next week. I don't know what we'll be talking about next week, but it will likely be something related to data analysis, as I have the qualitative data analysis masterclass coming up. It's a 2-hour live webinar. We'll be offering the same way, but it's in another private Facebook group. And if you haven't seen or heard anything about it, go on the website. It's under resources, and feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. I don't want you not to join because you don't have the financial means. So if that's you, if that's your case, please send me an email and we'll talk about it. Okay? Take care and thank you and have an excellent day.